warm namaste to all. I, Preetham Malakar of IIT Madras, cordially welcome our chief guest, Dr. Nambi Narayanan ji. Esteemed faculties and dear students, on behalf of Vande Mataram family, an independent student body of IIT Madras, we are ecstatic to announce that our Vande Mataram team has completed 3 years of service in this Institute of Excellence and Repute. We welcome you all to our second edition on the pious occasion of National Science Day. Vande Mataram, our national song written by Sri Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, has been instrumental in inspiring hundreds of freedom fighters to jump into the freedom struggle. And Vande Mataram has been instilling a patriotic fervor in the hearts and minds of our fellow citizens to come forward and get involved in the nation-building process of our motherland. Our team Vande Mataram endeavors to conduct events to sensitize the students' community and keep them abreast of India's rich cultural, economic, socio-political, scientific, and technological heritage. Its relevance today, contemporary issues, and thoughts about the roadmap ahead. 28th February, every year is celebrated as the National Science Day to mark the discovery of Raman effect by Sir C.V. Raman in the year 1928. Sir C.V. Raman is one of the greatest physicists India has ever got. Sir Raman's painstaking research work has contributed significantly to the field of science and technology in India. Many institutions of scientific research has been named after Sir C.V. Raman. Sir Raman also served as academic advisor to Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the father of Indian space program. Dr. Sarabhai was a rare mix of scientist, innovator, and industrialist. He was also a great institution builder, and his commitment to the pursuit of science and innovation caused to develop many premier institutes like the Physical Research Laboratory, Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, Electronics Corporation of India Limited, and Variable Electron Cyclotron Project. Dr. Sarabhai has been also headed many important organizations like the Atomic Energy Commission. The establishment of the Indian Space Research Organization was one of the greatest contributions of Dr. Sarabhai. Another unforgettable name is in science is Professor Satish Dhawan. Professor Satish Dhawan was an Indian aerospace engineer, widely regarded as the father of experimental fluid dynamics research in India. His eminent researches has been in the field of turbulence and boundary layers, leading to the successful and indigenous development of the Indian space program. He was a professor at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Professor Dhawan has headed institutions like ISRO, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and during his tenure at ISRO, he steered the organization to the pinnacle of success. Now let us sing our national song, Vande Mataram. I request you all to put your cell phones in silent mode, and I call upon Sri Hari Ganesh ji for the national song.
Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam Suphalam, Malayaj Shitalam, Sasya Shamalam, Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Hari Ganesh ji. Now I invite Professor Thamban Nair ji of Mathematics Department to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Nambi Narayanan ji, with a fruit basket. Thank you, sir. Dr. Nambi Narayanan ji was born in Kerala in the year 1941. He graduated in mechanical engineering from Madras University and went on to do his post-graduation at Princeton University, United States. He was a NASA fellowship holder and worked on combustion instability in liquid rocket propulsion system. Nambi Narayanan ji joined ISRO in the year 1966 and went on to head the cryogenics division at ISRO. His diligent work in the area of liquid propulsion systems finally got success when he and his team came up with the Vikas engine. The development of the Vikas engine was a revolutionary step in space research. He worked with many legends of the arena like Professor Satish Dhawan, Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, Dr. Brahma Prakash, Dr. U.R. Rao, and contributed immensely in the growth of ISRO for 35 years of his life. Let me inform you all that we would have a question-answer session after the talk, and we request you not to interrupt the talk in between. And now I invite Dr. Nambi Narayanan ji to deliver the much-anticipated talk titled My Days with Dr. Vikram Sarabhai and Professor Satish Dhawan.
Good evening, everybody. I had been to the IIT Madras very long back. This was, but I had a lot of students from IIT. They were working with me. So I am very happy to be with you, just to share some of my memories, particularly with Dr. Sarabhai and Professor Satish Dhawan, Professor U.R. Rao, etc. But before I get into those recollections, I just thought I'll share with you, just as a matter of introduction, that how the whole rocketry came into existence. I think some of you must be certainly knowing that today's present rocket technology was primarily started during the Second World War. We had the so-called V2 rocket, architectured by the great dictator Adolf Hitler, and Von Braun was the person behind the whole show. Actually, there were people like Professor Daddio and then Muller and so on and so forth. From news clippings and books, I had developed a fascination for the so-called liquid propulsion system. Incidentally, V2 is a liquid rocket. So I had kept in my mind that one day I will be visiting those places where this V2 rocket was fabricated, assembled, tested, etc. Suddenly when this was done in the year 1943-44, that time frame, I was a small child, baby. But please remember, but for the wrong guidance system, which didn't work properly, the result of the Second World War would have been different. Because suddenly Hitler would have achieved what he wanted. So later, much later, I visited the Pina Munde, the hill place where this rocket was assembled. Then met not Von Braun, but at least Daddio, who will speak very good English, but many times he will remember only the German language because he doesn't want to answer those questions, so he will go back to the German language. A fantastic engineer. And I happened to see one of the models of the V2 rocket. Not models, actually, it's a working system, recovered and kept in the museums. It's a marvelous engineering feat, I should say, because very difficult to imagine that kind of a perfection even in the 1940s, when the machining itself had its own limitations. For example, some of you, if you know how a liquid rocket works, you have an element called injector, which injects both the fuel and oxidizer into the combustion chamber. Now, the present injector technology, what we have in India, or for that matter in US and Russia, that's a different fixed element. Now, these fellows have made it as a single element, adjustable injectors. Difficult to conceive even. So, my point is that later what happened, after the World War II, the Germans either became prisoners of wars, captured by the Americans, or by the Russians, or by the French. So the question is, whose Germans are the better Germans? Whether the American captured Germans are better, or the French captured Germans are better. So if you really look at the history, almost all the rockets which you are talking about, let it be Atlas, and let it be Proton, let it be any of these rockets, on the base of it, you will find the German knowledge. Now, some of them are settled in the respective countries. So that is how the rocketry started growing after 1945. Now, there is an equation. The Russians and the Chinese were together with respect to the technology, either aircrafts or ammunitions, arms, or the rockets. America and Japan were together, so they will have the same kind of a technology. And the French was totally different. So essentially there are only 3 people, though there are 5 nations. Now we came very late. Actually, we started our research or our work on rocketry in the year 1963, November 21st. Actually, the first Nike Apache, an American-made rocket, was flying from a small coastal village called Tumba. When it took off, that was the date, that is 21st of November, 1963. Now, years have passed, but it was Dr. Sarabhai who was responsible for this activity. Actually, he is a genius. Unfortunately, he died prematurely. He had the ability and capacity, I should say, to borrow the Nike Apache from the Americans and the Centaur solid propellant from the French, Minsk computer from the Russians, and technical advice from Japan. You see, the whole thing is that he was able to put the international community together. Very, very innovative person. And a super intelligent, capable leader. So we had, to begin with, we had the solid technology by what is called Centaur rocket. The Centaur rocket was actually fabricated by the French, by an organization called Sud Aviation. Sud means south aviation. And they were doing actually polyvinyl chloride, PVC propellants, they call it. Any solid propellant will have a binder and a base. That is, you will have a polyvinyl chloride, or you will have polysulfide, or polybutadiene, or natural rubber, and so on and so forth. The oxidizer and fuel are fixed. They are mixed together and bonded by this binder. This Centaur propellant plant was using PVC base, and their capacity was only 300 millimeter diameter rockets. 300 millimeter means approximately a foot, 12 inches. And there was a rocket by name Centaur in France. Basically, these are metallurgical applications. So they gave us this technology, but later we stretched it into not only to 300 became 560, 560 became 1000, and that is what your so-called SLV3. SLV3 has a diameter of about a meter. Now, Dr. Sarabhai, when he started this with all these international communities together, I am sure that he had a lot of dreams in his mind. According to me, he was heading both the Atomic Energy Commission as well as the ISRO. At that time, it is not ISRO, it is called INCASPER, and then part of some small petty organizations called Space Science and Technology Center, and TERLS, Tumba Equatorial Rocket Launching Station, etc. But what was in his mind was to bring India a great power. Unfortunately, he died December 30th, 1971. A premature death at the age of 51, a man who has no known diseases and no declared habits which are considered to be injurious to health. And we were so nice in closing the case by saying that it is a natural death. So we have packed his body back to his hometown, stating the reason for not doing any post-mortem is to listen to the request of Mrs. Sarabhai. And so you understand what the whole thing went through. But here, it is worth recalling the previous chairman of Atomic Energy Commission, Dr. Baba, also died in an air crash. That was during 1966. I really don't know the reason for the crash is known even today or not. But it was a crash, and Baba died. Now, Dr. Sarabhai, though he was starting his ISRO experiments with solids in mind, I happen to be, or it was my luck that I happened to be close to him. In the sense, Dr. Sarabhai was practically experimenting a system in Tumba, which is different from what he was practicing in Bombay as Atomic Energy Commission chairman. In Tumba, he was available to one and all. You can go and talk to him. In fact, there was one professor by name Blamont. He is a French fellow who came here to advise Dr. Sarabhai how to run the organization in some way. So we had a lot of PhDs from Purdue, from various US universities. So this Blamont went through the entire organization for more than 2-3 days and then gave 2 important advices. One advice is that he said that each PhD, put them into a box and make sure that they don't come out of the box. So that was one advice which I think Dr. Sarabhai must have probably thought about it in. But then he also made a statement saying that your structure, your entire organizational structure should be in such a manner so that you are available to all. But probably he said, Dr. Sarabhai, I remember a gathering like this in which Professor Blamont says, you wanted to change from a vertical system to a horizontal system. But what you are doing is neither vertical nor horizontal, but radial. Now, this particular point went into the mind of Sarabhai very, very much. Then in a casual chat, he was asking me, radial means what? Radial means that anybody can approach me anywhere? Yes, yes, sir, yes, anybody can approach you anywhere. You mean to say it is not good? I don't know. Professor Brahman says you are having a radial system. But primarily, the problem which came up in that review was that there's no visual accepting one. Okay, okay. No, I didn't get it. Okay. So the outcome was very simple, that he wanted to structure the organization in such a manner so that people are given a defined job. And with that definition, things will move in a set goal. Of course, unfortunately, before he started doing that, he died, and then subsequently Professor Satish Dhawan came. Along with him, one great metallurgist, Dr. Brahm Prakash, joined as the director of the renamed Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. And these are the two gentlemen who totally reorganized. I would say the credit for what is today's ISRO goes to these two gentlemen without any doubt, beyond doubt. At least they made sure that you can't do anything and everything as you like. You can do things in a defined manner, in a time-bound manner, within a budget, within a time frame, etc., etc. Now, from 1963 to 1971, it was Sarabhai. 1972 to 1985, it was Professor Dhawan. And from 1985 to 1993, it was Professor U.R. Rao. Now, these are the three great gentlemen, good sons of India. They have shaped the organization to what is today. Now, in the entire process, I would like to recall some of the incidents and the way in which we grew from zero to somebody whom everybody is looking at us today, even in the country as well as from outside the country. When Sarabhai died, we didn't have a rocket which is more than 560 millimeter diameter. 300 and 560 we were on the test bed. And of course Kalam was responsible for a rocket which is called, he named it as D1. So I asked him whether there are A, B, C rockets or etc. But he said, no, D has a meaning. I said, can you please tell me? He said, don't tell anyone. D means dreamer. So he was actually working on a project called Dreamer. Incidentally, the Dreamer was later renamed as Menaka, and then Menaka never flew successfully, and Menaka was only a dancer in the air. Okay, that is how it ended up. So we had great difficulty even in developing a 75 millimeter diameter rocket. I happened to work closely on these small rockets. And somehow I found it is very difficult to do a small rocket compared to a big rocket. Because, in fact, it was a usual joke. We go to the test bed with a small rocket, we blast, we come back. The fellows who didn't go there will ask whether it was a head-end failure or a nozzle-end failure. Then you can answer it is head-end or nozzle-end or the shell itself. And we could never get a successful test for a very, very long time. That one got changed by a successful firing of the 300 millimeter rocket, then a 560. That is the time when Kalam proposed a project which is called SLV-3, Satellite Launch Vehicle 3. The 3 has one significance because there was SLV-1 and 2, both were not taken up. So SLV-3, that flew successfully in the year 1979. Again, the whole credit goes to Kalam as well as to Professor Dhawan. So from zero, we moved up to SLV-3. So we have something to, though the first SLV-3 was a failure, we had something to go ahead with the system. But till then, I was having my fascination for the liquid systems. But nobody believed that a liquid propulsion system can be made, leave alone its usefulness, leave alone its versatility, leave alone its capability, nothing. It's not possible. Simply because you don't have the propellant, you don't have the oxidizer, you don't have the fuel, you don't have the high temperature materials, you have nothing. So you can do nothing with that. But something has to be done. So my only job was to keep on telling wherever the policy-making body or the meetings are there, you keep on saying that a liquid must be made, a liquid must be made. So it became a song, and some people used to run away from me when I started going nearer to them saying, yes, we have had enough of your liquid. So then, it became a joke actually. Excepting Professor Sarabhai, when I got admission in the Princeton, I was going in the same aircraft, Annapurna. Sarabhai was also coming in the same aircraft. So he asked me, and then I told him, actually I got admission in the solid propulsion with Professor Summerfield, Martin Summerfield, a name which everybody must be knowing. He is a well-known name for the solid propellant system. But I have no interest in going for the solid propellant. I wanted to go to liquid propulsion. So I said, this I am going. He said, you are going to Summerfield. I said, no, sir, I am going to Croco, Louis Croco. But your admission is only, no, I will go and manage there. Actually, I didn't know a damn about how to manage, what to manage, where to talk, nothing. I am going there with a hope that I will manage. Anyway, the management part of it, I don't want to elaborate because it will sometimes will be used by some of you in a different way. So let me tell you, I just went there and talked to Professor Summerfield with pleasantries. In fact, there is a criteria called Summerfield effect, a very interesting criteria. So I praised. And then I said that, sir, please help me to get me into. Actually, depending upon the vacancies only, they allot the. Then he said, go and talk to Professor Luigi Croco. If he is interested, he will take you. Now, he was a very old person, and I happened to read his, one of the so-called stability theorem, Croco's theorem. It is known as Croco's theorem. Even today, it is a very, very valid theorem. And the only thing is, many people use only the result of it, and nobody bothers to understand how the hell it was derived or how the hell it was found out. But I, unfortunately or fortunately, happened to read the whole thing, so I went and told him that, sir, he said, very simple language, he said, my wife is not well, she is bedridden. I can't come to the college, so I can't help you. I said, I'll come to the house. No, but I am, anyway, finally, what he said, he looked at my grades and he looked at my project work, all the things, but very difficult for him to say no. But he said, let us do an experiment. Let us work for about a month. Let us see how it goes. But please understand, you have to come to my house every time whenever you want to go. I won't come to the office, etc. Anyway, to my satisfaction, I was successful in managing my trip to Sarabhai, changeover to the liquid. Incidentally, in ISRO, we never had a liquid rocket, nothing. But in Princeton, you have everything. So I was asked to work. I was also given a NASA fellowship. I applied for it and I got it. And that particular project was instability of one of the existing engines. The existing engine is the lunar module, which was supposed to lift off from the moon's surface with Neil Armstrong. Now, I was excited because that's a great engine, and it is already flying. But what is there to look at it? Anyway, I started that, and to my shock, I found that the engine is having a very low margin of safety, stability margin. I did not know what to do. Should I to go and tell Professor Croco that this engine which you are successfully flying has less margin of safety or stability? Then I checked and checked. I had one Russian engineer, Shrivansky. He is actually a postdoctoral fellow, but he has joined on a postgraduate program here under the Summerfield collaboration. And we became friends. Somehow the Russians will become a good friend of you because they think that you are a closest friend to them. And he is the one who who helped me in a way, saying that you are right, you go and tell your Professor Kroko that this is having less margin of safety. That is one contribution. Second contribution is he talked about an engine called KVD-1. This KVD-1 engine is a cryogenic engine. As you know that both cryogenic as well as the earth storable, both are liquid only. So he said that we have the highest specific impulse, namely 462 seconds, which in all stretch of imagination, it was not a published work. So I have not read that particular availability, particular engine. So I asked him, are you joking? He said, yes, it is available. Then why are you not using it? No, we wanted to close it and they have locked up. We didn't want to make it. But I couldn't sleep because the published literature in American side says 440 odd seconds only. This is much more than 20 seconds more than that. Anyway, that I'll come back later. So this particular incident with which I was talking to Sarabhai, he used to visit quite often. Incidentally, Sarabhai is from MIT and he had very good relations with the American. In fact, he has such a powerful relation. Arnold Fredkin, who passed away very recently, he was somebody big in NASA. And Sarabhai used to call him, hey, how are you? In that kind of a relation. So Sarabhai first time coming to know that there are missiles which are employing liquid propulsion systems. He was under the impression that almost all the missiles are using only the solid propulsion systems. Anyway, so that particular story, now why I am saying this is that I told you earlier that Sarabhai wanted you to become a powerful person. So he became really excited and then he said, the first encouragement with a meaningful approach from the powerful person in the organization comes through this knowledge. So I completed my job and then I came back to India. To my unfortunate situation, I came back and within a year, Sarabhai passed away. So the only encouragement which I had to do something on liquid is also gone. And Professor Dhawan came, again, usual story. And Professor Dhawan somehow, he immediately understood the merit of the liquid system. So he said, all right, let us do something. And some of the very big names in ISRO, I don't want to mention the names, none of them were very happy about the development of the liquid systems, barring the second chairman, that is Professor Dhawan. And Professor Dhawan's conviction was so high. Whenever he wants to support me, see, in ISRO, the working situation is that you should have a project, you should have under the project a manpower, then the funding, and then, that kind of a system. I didn't have a project, I didn't have manpower, I didn't have the funding. So how can you, then even in the chairman's discretionary funds, he will give some exploratory work, 500 crore, 1 crore, something like that. Support was not very much there. With little money, I got fed up. I told him, either you give me a meaningful budget or stop giving me that politism, I don't need it. But then Professor Dhawan told me one important point, saying that without investing much of money, is there a way to do the liquid system? I said, what do you mean? No, I mean, I'm not in a position to give a lot of money, but I think you should do the liquid systems. You are all laughing. I also couldn't help it. At that time, one person whom you may know is Mr. T.N. Seshan. He was our director of administration. So he was more or less like my guru, whom I liked very much, or probably he also liked me, I don't know for what reason. So I went and told him, this is what Dhawan says. But then he asked, what did he say? I said, how is it possible? No, you should say yes. I said, how are you going to do it? You will find. You don't close the door by saying no. You say yes. Maybe some way will come. Anyway, luckily that same way came because the French wanted a partner to develop their so-called Vikas engine. they had an M40 engine, which, as I told in the beginning, was a derivative of, I'm sorry, some of the names may not strike very, familiarity with you, but you have to put up with me. The smuggled prisoners of war, with their help, German prisoners of war, with their help, they made the so-called Veronique, and then Valois, and then Coralie, and then those kind of engines. They had an engine called M40. The M40 is the grandfather of the Vikas engine. So they said, we want to develop it, we want a joint partner. Anyway, we made an equation. Equation is a very simple equation saying that, what is the price of it? X rupees. Okay, this price will not be paid by us as money, but as a kind. What is a kind? We will work for you. We will come and work for you. After all, it is a joint development. So we have to give you manpower. We will come and... At that time, I used your name very liberally, saying that there are a lot of IITians who are better than any of your students here from École Militaire and things like that. So in all senses, I could make use of all the IIT's name, though our strength at that time was 10, after 53 people, only 10 or 12 IITians were there. But we went there. So with no cash transfer basis, the starting point of session on the contract is that this contract is on the principle of no cash transfer. So we went there, we worked there, and we jointly developed it. And of course, I named the engine as, in India, it is known as Vikas. And many people thought that it is meaning development, but it is a tribute of Vikram Sarabhai. This is the name I gave it. So today it is known in India as Vikas engine, though it is a joint development of the Viking engine. So it was actually Session's brainchild, if you put it that way. But many people do not know contribution of an IAS officer in the development of ISRO's Vikas engine. I don't think that any one of you know it, actually. So this is part of history, so that's why I just thought I'll make it known to you that how people from different walks of life have contributed to this. So during Professor Dhawan's period, we made this Vikas engine. And when we came back to India, the usual talk is that these people have gone there and then roamed around the Lido clubs and crazy halls and stuff like that, and they have no idea about what is Viking or Vikas. So in order to shut their mouth, we made a model using model materials, and we exhibited there. This is what is the so-called Vikas engine. It's only a model. Now let us make the real thing, then only the color will be out. So what I said, I didn't know what to do, because as Dhawan wanted, without money, we made the whole thing. But then we are not able to proceed further. So I added one thing there. My name is Vikas engine. My thrust is 60 ton. My burning duration is 140 seconds, etc., etc. At the end of it, I added saying that I am an orphan. And Professor Dhawan, while passing through the foyer, he just stopped it there and then he asked, "What do you mean by orphan?" I said, "Orphan is orphan." You know. Then he asked, "How much money you want for making a working engine?" I said, "A real working engine would cost you about 1 crore. Okay, you bring the papers. The paper, he gave 1 crore. The problem was the quantity of material you have to order has to have a minimum quantity. For example, if you want to buy O-rings, you can't buy 10 O-rings. But all kinds of things followed, not to be recorded. We smuggled O-rings and seals, and then we brought the help of some people, a passenger who will bring this, bring that. And finally, we made a working Vikas engine. Then, oh, this is a working engine. That's what the Nambi fellow claims. But how do we know it works? Now, we need a test stand to make it work, and we don't have a test stand. And we want a test stand, it would cost you 100 crores. And there is no specific place, neither place nor stand, nothing. And by the time I was telling to Professor Dhawan, "Sir, it will work." Then he said, "Can you prove this?" I said, "Yes. Give me another crore, I will prove it." I said, But people say 100 crores. No, 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 no. To prove that it will work, I need only 1 crore. He asked, tell me, man, how? I said, I'll test it in the same engine, same test bed in France. Will they accept your engine? I said, it is my job. Leave it to me. So I went and told my colleagues there, thanks to them, they said, we will inspect all the documents, whether you have done it exactly as per procedure. I said, come along. So they came and then inspected it and all. Finally, they said, okay, we will test it. The 1 crore we paid, 60 lakhs goes for the propellant alone, which will be consumed. So only the 40 lakhs is the real fees we pay. That too goes for 30 lakhs goes for the insurance, because if we blast the test bed, then they have to get their money back. So we tested it. Though the requirement was 140 seconds, I was at the height of vexation. I said, how much maximum you can go the burning duration? They said, the capacity of the tank, you can go up to 180 seconds. I said, go. So we went up to 180 seconds. It was working beautifully. It took the CD of it. Next flight came back to India. And it was my job to call the big stalwarts and then say, there is a movie being screened showing the firing, hot firing of the Vikas engine. You may like to see. But anyway, this is how the so-called Vikas engine got into the PSLV program. I am trying to illustrate is this as brief as possible, but the story is pretty long because it's a period of more than 19 years. So we got into the successful PSLVs, 40 numbers with not even one failure, GSLVs, not failures, Chandrayaan, Mangalyaan, all are carried by this Vikas. But please understand, the agony one has gone through that. From outside, when you look at it, ISRO, oh, great, success. But I don't think that you know what has really meted out by people. So, in fact, in this venture, I have many IITians there, and many of you may like to come to ISRO. But let me tell you that it was not to discourage you, I told the entire story. Still, we could succeed in the entire thing, but unfortunately, Sarabhai was not alive, and Professor Dhawan was alive, yes, of course. Then we have, afterwards there was no going back on it. Then to make as a full space power, what you needed was the cryogenic technology. Then my Princetonian colleague came in my mind. So it's a long story. On another occasion, if you care to invite me, I will come and tell you the cryogenic manipulations and management and then delivery of that. But still, I will just briefly say that we signed a contract, and that contract couldn't go through fully. It ended up into a fiasco, what is called the ISRO spy case. But the cryogenic certainly came through, though it was a delayed product. With that, today, what we have, different modules of solid, liquid, and cryogenic. You have as small a rocket of 75 millimeter diameter, 3-inch diameter, to 3 meters diameters. The solid propellant rocket, the booster is 3 meter, 2.9 meter if I am exact. Then you have liquid rockets varying between 600 kg or even 50 kg, 600 kg, then 3 ton, and then 60 ton. Now you have 110 ton. And then you have the cryogenic engine of different capacities. Now, the one message I want to give you is that now you have all the modules which you can think of. Or you can derive some modules if you need in using these things. Now, what we have done so far is we have successfully configured launch vehicles to carry satellites into your desired orbit. It is near Earth orbit, low Earth orbit, medium Earth, and geosynchronous orbit, and whatnot, doing remote sensing. I don't want to go into the entire details, but it is possible to do the MET, telecommunication, television, and then even a watchdog function. So those technologies we have mastered. So we have. Now it is up to us to capitalize it and then get the best out of it commercially. I was having a dream long back saying that we should reach a stage as early as year 2000 wherein we commercially launch these satellites and then gain the money to spend the entire ISRO's operations. And we need not draw a single pie from the exchequer. Now that is possible very soon, if not maybe another 3-4 years. Now let us come to the gray area. One of the very gray area is the planning with respect to the outer space, the interplanetary stuff. I don't think that we have applied our mind seriously to it. The mission Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan are only preliminary missions just to feel how it will look like. Primarily the Mangalyaan mission was how to reach the orbit of Mars. Well, you have a lot of hurdles, a lot of pulls and pushes and stuff like that. And to work back from the calculated time from jumping from one orbit into another orbit, that kind of a calculation, we proved that we are successful. Then Chandrayaan, of course, we dropped some small payload into Chandra's surface. Now we are talking about Chandrayaan 2, we are talking about a rover and all. But honestly, I don't think that the programs of Chandrayaan 2, Mangalyaan 2 are not defined in that sense. That is, you have an end goal in your mind, so work backwards and then say that this is a stepping stone for that. I think that exercise is not done. I was talking to some of your professors. It could be due to lack of confidence, or it could be due to that it is not going to take place in the near future, next year, year after, or it could be due to the fear that you are spending too much money and whatnot and all. But whatever it is, the fact is that you have not planned your activity in that area. So that is a gray area. Now we have to certainly plan in a deeper sense. I was just talking, maybe some of you might be interested and then spend some of your time in understanding what is the whole universe. How do we reach where and for what? When to go? What is that you need to do that? Quite welcome. This will have a very good, because starting from zero. Please believe me, we have not made any major planning on that. Now the next thing important is that we are talking about the outer space, we are talking about travel. But you must have heard about the so-called SpaceX. I hope some of you must have heard about that. Falcon boosters. Actually, he's making NASA, ESA, everybody as fools. Honestly, he is doing wonders. Low cost. I think he's talking about $195 million for a mission to go and come back. Then if you relax certain conditions like dropping the dead weight into a particular place of the ocean and that stuff, then it will cost you only $100 million. Something like a discounted travel. Incidentally, I recall here about 25 years back, somebody from Germany was planning a similar program, but he couldn't succeed. So he dropped it in the middle. Now I am saying bright engineering, post-graduation, PhD holders or people who are working should certainly spend some time in spending some innovative ideas. Like what we have in ISRO, because we have published it in all modules. I think the calculations are not going to be very complicated for your first order calculations. So you can just think about it and then come out with something similar to SpaceX or even better than SpaceX. That will be a very good contribution, I'm sure. It will give you immense satisfaction. And sometimes if you think or if you have no confidence in you, call some of us. We will join in your no confidence motion. But still, I think it is worth it. Now, I think I just jolted down some of the points before coming over here. I think I have covered what ISRO's potential growth from zero to today's level, and what are the contributions of Dr. Sarabhai, Dhawan, and Professor Rao, and what is completed successfully and what is yet to be completed. And only thing which I think maybe it will take more time, because there are some good, hilarious, nice moments of Dr. Sarabhai and then Dhawan. How great these people are. I think we will reserve it another occasion in a personal chat. I had the unique opportunity of moving very closely with these people. I have mentioned some of them in my book. A book was released in Malayalam. There are so many people from Kerala. And an English version is getting released by first week of March in another 10-15 days. You may like to go through, so I don't want to have a repetition of what is written. But for the support of these three chairmen, who were the pioneers and the backbone of ISRO's whole program, probably ISRO would not have reached this stage where it is standing today. With this, I would like to conclude, and unless some questions are there. Okay.
Thank you, sir, for the talk. I just had one question relating to the semi-cryo engines. I think, I mean, right now India has cryo engines and solid rockets as well, but I mean, the Vikas engines, but the semi-cryo engine is, do you think somewhere we missed out that? Or?
My answer is going to be purely my personal view, okay? I request you not to get confused with that of ISRO's, okay? With that understanding. I am one who wants to tell you something on the so-called the semi-cryogenic, you mean RP1 and liquid oxygen, correct? Am I correct? Yeah. Let us just think about what is RP1. RP1 is defined as refined petroleum. Now you may think that is just like aviation fuel or it's a kerosene. Just go back into history, there are some books which will explain to you. It is originally known as Jet Propulsion Laboratories fuel, JP1, and they started doing it from JP1 to JP9. This JP was developed purely on the request of the army men who wants to handle the fuel as if it is a kerosene. That is how the request came. Because they were afraid of handling N2O4 because it was toxic, and UDMH it is because of carcinogenic. Now they ran from JP1 to JP9, and then JP10 alone became a repeatable, consistent result. Then they renamed it as RP1. But please understand, field to field, the sulfur content and the carbon content varies for this so-called oil. And you had hell in the development, and the money they have spent was very heavy. So I am saying that this RP1 is not just like refining a petroleum and then trying to use it. That is number one. Number two, you have to compare the cost of a semi-cryogenic engine with that of a full cryogenic engine. You see, just for example, just to market you, in one case, if it costs $100 million, in another case, it is $99 million. $99 million is suddenly cheaper, correct? But one has to see the amount you are really saving out of it and the troubles you are really saving out of it. So I am not for it, but ISRO is doing it. Okay.
Good evening, sir. Good evening. Sir, what is the scope and future of private organizations in our Indian research, space research?
I'm not able to get you.
What is the scope and future of private organizations and startups in Indian space research?
I tried to take some of the private organizations along with me for the cryogenic engine development. 6 industries I took with me to Russia. Right now, 2 private industries, Cartridge and MTAR, these are the 2 private industries who are full-time working on the Vikas engine development. Very, very successful. Reliable, you can depend upon them. But if your question has a built-in assumption like Thiokol Chemical Corporation, Hercules Powder Company, and then Aerogel General Corporation, and Bell Aero Systems, that kind of companies like Society European the Propulsion, international aerospace companies abroad, then I have made out. You have to screen from, first of all, you don't have so many number of that companies in India. You have very, very limited. And in that limited, any company is meant to make money, correct? They will be certainly meant to make money. But I am one who wants to encourage the private sector for one reason, so that the remaining people in ISRO need not worry about the production of this job. They can leave it to the private fellows who will do the, entire fabrication. But then some of us can apply our mind into so-called innovative things I was talking about. But it is a 50-50 chance. But if you are interested in starting a new private venture, I think you have a very good opportunity. But don't take a very wide field. You can certainly take in certain narrow areas. For example, development of a special bearing or development of a particular problem. Why gas cylinder temperature is fluctuating plus minus 50 degrees, for example. Like a problem which can be defined but takes long time, and ISRO is not worried about the outcome of it for some more time, but you have all the time to work on that. That kind of problem if you take, then you are bound to succeed. I don't know whether I am clear in my answer. When I go to other engineering colleges, actually there will be some shyness in the minds of the people in asking some question. But with IITs, I thought that I will be, a lot of questions will come. I think it's going to be a sort of
do you think the workforce, present workforce of ISRO is being utilized efficiently, or do they need to do something more in terms of the output?
I think ISRO has some specialities. Whomever has joined ISRO, they have developed a kind of passion for their work. And one interesting thing is, even if you are a little lazy, when you see all your neighbors are working with a good enthusiasm, then you also become active. In fact, in ISRO, I believe there is no question of anybody managing somebody. It's like in your own system. I used to tell to some of my friends here, some of the professors are called guides actually. I feel they should be consultants because a guide is one who knows something earlier and then he guides you to that particular project. You are a consultant. You consult. You are being consulted for their problems. In ISRO, the management is not. You asked me a question. Management. We are not actually. I am not managing anybody. What we did was we understand the problem. We define a system. For example, take Vikas engine. Divide that into systems like turbo pump, gas generator, and then water pump, all kinds of things. Finally, to a level of a bolt. From that point onwards, you can't further divide that system. Identify a person for that particular system, minimum. Now work back. Now it is his job to understand everything and anything of that system for which he is responsible. And make sure that it is compatible with its interface, etc., etc. So who is managing who? But the interesting part is, if he is a dedicated fellow, he will make sure that things are delivered in time. So ISRO, for example, I was telling to some of my friends here, in one organization where you can address Mr. Chairman, instead of that, either you can say Mr. Chairman, or you can say Dhawan, Satish Dhawan, or you can call him Dr. Sarabhai, and say, it seems to be that you are not understanding what you are telling, or you don't know, or you seem to be wrong. Nobody will take it as an offense. And no chairman, to my knowledge, takes that as an offense. So that way we have grown people, and you have the freedom to work. So management in that sense is not...
No, my question was whether the output for the workforce that is there, is it efficient or it should produce more? For example, some 10 years ago, I was told that in 2 years they used to launch one satellite, or maybe 15 years ago. Then it changed to launching 2 satellites in a year, because there was a feeling that, they're not doing sufficient. So that is the sense in which I was talking about, whether they should do more or they are doing adequate.
Okay. It can, you can do more efficiently than what you are doing now. To answer your question, you can do much more efficient than what you are really doing. What I mean by that, some 5 years back, if you were launching 2 satellites, now you are launching only 3 satellites. Or see, there are other problems which arose out of bad planning. For example, you have only 2 launch pads, for example. Now you want another launch pad. You can't create a launch pad tomorrow by budgeting and then create it overnight. You will need minimum 3 to 4 years, for example. So a bad planning can result into a non-availability of a facility or a projection of the budget in the proper. Even now, honestly, I feel that it can be much more efficient than what it is. Somebody else asked a question that you can get rid of some of the job to private agencies who will be taking care of it, so that you don't have to do productionization, and have a refinement in your planning. Maybe have one more launch station, so that whenever some cyclonic threat comes there, you can move to a different launch station. One more launch pad. Then the satellite technology is something which you can subcontract it without any much of problems. You see, in that process, you will be bringing down your cost very much, so that in the international scenario, you can compete and then you can get more contract. See, the business in this area, you must understand, at least I know in the year 94-95 time frame, the geosynchronous launch vehicle project alone, the business was worth $300 billion. I don't know the number of zeros you will put there. Really something very, very great. Now it must have enhanced it now. See, please understand, only 5 or 6 fellows are controlling the whole thing. And you think of those small chota countries like Maldives, Sri Lanka, Thailand, so many countries. They all need satellites if they want to really compete with you. So business is going to be more. It can be very, very efficiently planned and then shared. Okay, to put an answer to your question is yes, you can improve the efficiency very much.
Sir, one more question. The next challenge for ISRO is to developing relaunching vehicle. Can you throw some light on developing relaunching vehicle for next satellite launch application?
I was telling you about the Falcon fellow. Falcon is actually using a relaunch vehicle. It's a very tricky question, I must say this. See, take for example the first stage of PSLV, which is a 3-meter diameter solid propellant. Now you can recover it without much difficulty because it will fall 10-20 kilometers offshore. Even the fishermen will bring it to you for a very reasonable cost of some 3,000, 4,000 rupees. But the problem is you have to refurbish that first stage. When you refurbish it, you have to machine the entire ablative coatings which are stuck to the walls of the... Imagine a 3-meter diameter machining facility. Now, having done that, you have to bring it to the original shape, can I say that, original level. Then a system which has gone through one firing, and then you are going to reuse it. And what is the saving you get out of it in the entire reprocessing? I think we have some doubts about it. But the liquid systems, yes, you can. In fact, almost all our liquid systems, we are firing even before taking it to the launch pad, before accepting the assembly. We have a small firing for 10 seconds, then we take it out and then clean it and then again put it for this. There is no. But the solid system, in PSLV, the first stage is a major solid system. There we have some question mark. It needs to discuss, it needs to be discussed. But the other fellow is using Falcon, he is using completely liquid systems. So in other words, if you really want to make use of the reusability, then your vehicle should have been configured to an all-liquid mission, for example, with just strap-ons alone to solids. Hope you got my point. The configuration of today's PSLV you have is a first stage, a big booster solid. Then either you have a strap-on liquid, then second stage is again a liquid, third stage is a cryogenic. So, excepting the core vehicle, all others are liquids. Now imagine that you are removing the core vehicle also and having a clustered liquid stage. Then the configuration itself will change totally. But I think it is worth considering it. Nothing.
Sir, if you compare GSLV MK3 and Falcon 9, Falcon 9, it is having 2 stages. Here we are using only RP1 and liquid oxygen. But if you compare GSLV MK3, for the booster stage we are using HTPB, and second stage we are using UDMH and N2O4 for Vikas engine. And in the upper stage, liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. For different propellants, we need different test facilities, different missions, different infrastructure that will cost you a lot. But instead of that, if you use for every stages same fuel, we can cut the cost like SpaceX, what they are doing now. For Falcon 9, they are using RP1 and liquid oxygen for both stages. And I have watched one video of Elon Musk, and what he is saying that he cut the major cost by using the same propellant. So in the upper stage, what he uses the same engine, but he increases the exit area ratio so to match the vacuum pressure. So that currently we are going to develop AC200 engine. No? So what my suggestion is that we should drop the solid boosters. Instead of that, if you use in R7 like that configuration, so if you use RP1 and liquid oxygen for both upper stage and lower stage, we can cut the cost, no?
It's a very, you have a point, but please understand. First of all, I think, if I am correct, Falcon is not using the same fuel in all the stages. They are having a cryogenic stage on the top.
No.
I'm not quite sure about it, but let us look at it. But even if you, I think they are using for the upper stage a cryogenic engine. The natural logic is you use a very high energy propellant in the upper stages, usually. Okay, this is something which we can verify. I don't want to insist on that point. But whether it is HTPB or whether it is PVC or whether it is polysulfide, it is immaterial. It is a solid, you call it as a solid, whether you want to use a solid stage. Now, when we did in ISRO, for the Mark III versions of the GSLV or the PSLV, I said in my discussion that we have so many modules now. You have a cryogenic, and now they are doing the semi-cryogenic, and you have the earth storable, you have the solids, you have different dimensions, different diameters. Because we wanted to be rich in its options, so that we have established systems which we can pull them together in any future mission. That was one reason for going to different types of fuels. Now, when you use the same propellant in all through, I don't think that you will only save on the handling systems. That is, the one which is loading the propellant into the stage, and in case of emergency, unloading the propellant. That alone will be the establishment saved. But there is some hitch in what you are asking. I'll tell you why. The high energy propellants, which will be more expensive, will be generally used for the upper stages. Normally, when you say saving you should look at in the following angle. That is, per kg of propellant in the geosynchronous orbit, for achieving that, what is the cost? Compare both the systems, which systems will give you for a cheaper price. So if you really work on that, then you will have an answer. But it can be done, it can be considered. There is something about it. But Falcon is something very innovative. What I am requesting all of you, I don't think that he alone can get into this idea. Some of you think deeply, you will get into brighter ideas than that. I'm not joking, really. It's possible. So that way you can think it over. See, years back, when we didn't have anything, whatever you say will be laughed at. Now today, you have everything what you want in terms of a module. So you can think of something like a Superman kind of an ideas, all kinds of imaginations. Sometimes you may get into some good ideas. Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir. So my question is the future of ISRO more towards space research or exploiting the space industry? And in either case, what kind of qualities are you looking for in the new recruits?
What kind of?
Qualities are you looking for in the new recruits which you take into ISRO?
Okay, the first one, the answer is very simple. We are going to be in need of satellites, because each satellite has its life. And already we have only less number of satellites compared to what you should have. So you need to launch, keep launching that. Now if a private industry can do it, well and good. There is no problem. The matter is whether somebody else launches it for you from the country or whether you are launching it. When I say you mean ISRO. It makes no difference. The nation needs. But what I am bothered or what I am interested is the nation, its own requirement should be met with, plus you should make it as a commercial launch. That is, you should launch for others and then make money out of it to meet your own requirements. This is an equation. That is one thing. Now, what kind of qualities we look, because we have different levels we are taking from people, tradesmen to top level management. But I will tell you, in ISRO, suddenly an IITian will fit, no problem. Now, second thing is, if you are interested in putting up a lot of efforts, not necessarily come by 9 and then go by 5, but little more. And you can go on 9 and come back by. Still you must be keeping on thinking about the work in the office. If that kind of energy you are willing to spend, and read lot of latest technologies which are emerging in the space world. And basically, if you are an intelligent guy, you can rise to the level of chairman ISRO.
Thank you.
So if we keep on sending satellites to outer Earth, so we are like basically polluting the outer Earth now. Like because every country will send their own satellites and all. So don't you think that we should work something upon that, that the satellites whose lifetime is over, we should take it back or dump somewhere? So whether ISRO is thinking about it or not?
Not to my knowledge, but I think your question is valid. We call it as space garbage. Present, at least in newspaper I read, China has developed certain systems of collecting these garbages from there. And they are going to, again I was told, they are going to commercialize it. Supposing you have a dead animal, dead bird in the orbit, Indian satellite, then they will say, you give me this much money, I will bring it down for you. So we can also do something, but that kind of a mission, see, if you really look at it, it will be interesting. Now your capability is to launch satellites. You go there to an altitude and then inject it and then leave it, it comes in an orbit. You have also proved yourself to go to Mars as well as Moon. Now this kind of garbage collection means you should have an intermediate orbit, intermediate stations. You should be able to park yourself in that orbit, and then you should be able to go nearer to the garbage, or methodology to bring and attract it and pull it to yourself and then bring it back, something like that. It can be worked out, but right now I don't think that we are planning in that direction. But you must also understand the international United Nations has a wing which is for outer space. That has certain regulations which are to be followed. You can't dump garbage there and then escape from there. All the orbits are decided, all the frequencies are decided. And if you are a member country, then only you will get the required permissions and all.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Professor Mahavir Jainji to come up on stage and present the memento as the token of respect and gratitude. Thank you, sir. I humbly request Kanti Kumari to propose the vote of thanks.
Namaste. We are immensely blessed to have Dr. Nambi Narayanan ji as our chief guest of Science Day celebration. Dr. Nambi Narayanan ji has donated a lot to the avenue of scientific research, not only in India, but also at international level. The motto of science has been to simplify and promote welfare in humanity, and we must be indebted to scientists like Dr. Nambi Narayanan ji. I'm sure that our student community has learned a lot from Dr. Nambi Narayanan ji's talk. We express our gratitude to you, sir, for sharing your precious time with us. We also thank our faculties, alumni, students, technical experts for the lights, sound, and videography. We embarked on this journey some 3 years back on the 118th birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and we remain equally committed even today. We pray for your love and support. We will keep serving. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.
Thank you, Kanti. Once again, we thank you all for being with us this evening. It has been a great pleasure. Now I call upon Shri Hari Ganesh ji for the national anthem, and all volunteers are instructed to stay back after the national anthem for the group photo. I kindly request you all to stand up.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभाशिष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे थैंक यू
30 seconds. One, two, three, four, 5. 30 seconds.
Finished? Yes, sir. It's very short. Actually, this is a static testing of the Vikas engine. I thought that when it was given to me, I thought it is a full duration. Full duration is about 180 seconds. Now this one is orange, then red hot, and at some point of time you will feel that it will melt away and then fall. So it will be the entire operation. So unfortunately, I'll send you this clipping to some of you. You can say. Thank you. Thank you.